Greetings everyone and welcome to Revolution of Reality. There is much research that supports the idea that there is life after death and a spirit realm, that psychic abilities are real, and that extraterrestrials are visiting our planet. In this series, I make the argument that the evidence from this research is extremely valuable to physicists in helping to address the current crisis in physics. However, such research is dismissed as pseudoscience by the majority of mainstream scientists. In this episode, I will argue that mainstream science is in no position to dismiss so-called pseudoscience. Let's start off with an anecdote by celebrity actor Barry Bostwick.
I started hearing noises, clanking and doors shutting and footsteps, and I thought, well, there's nobody else in the house. So I went up the back stairs and I looked around the corner. I saw this little blonde boy. He had a light-colored shirt, jeans or work pants of some sort, and old-fashioned like leather shoes. He was slightly transparent. The outline of the body isn't quite solid. It sort of is mutating. And it scared the crap out of me.
That's just one out of 339 accounts from celebrities describing the profound and highly emotional impact such experiences had on their lives. Celebrity Ghost Stories is one out of 36 TV series I researched in 2018 involving descriptions of ghost encounters. I counted a total of 156 seasons and 2008 episodes involving over 3,000 cases. This is a tiny percentage of the number of people who report in polls that they have seen or believe themselves to be in the presence of a ghost. The polls I looked at project to about 53 million adults in the US and about 15 million adults in the UK. Here's more detail on the poll data, which you can pause and examine if you like. Based on broader data, the global total could exceed 1 billion, given that ghost encounters have been reported across the world. They have also been reported throughout history, including in most indigenous cultures. What's more, thousands of people have told their stories to researchers regarding what it's like to be a ghost for a while. I'm referring to near-death experiences in which people report leaving their bodies during a brush with death. Such people might, for example, float above their bodies during an operation, and then, upon waking, report specific details of what they had seen and heard in various parts of the hospital while they were clinically dead. This book describes more than 100 such cases in which these types of specific details were independently verified, usually by medical staff. Ghost encounters and near-death experiences form part of a mountain of evidence gathered by parapsychologists, which they believe is convincing evidence. From my perspective, it's the size of the mountain and the cumulative nature of credible evidence that's convincing, if examined with an open mind. However, scientists require extraordinary evidence, and there is nothing in this mountain that satisfies that requirement. Parapsychologists have also produced a mountain of evidence that supports psychic abilities. This includes the type of laboratory evidence required by the scientific community. In Episode 8, I discussed the meta-analysis of 1,700 laboratory experiments involving psychic abilities. These have produced extremely high probabilities of psychic effects. This meta-analysis passed a long and exhaustive peer review which allowed it to be published in a top-tier mainstream science journal. However, this evidence was rejected by mainstream psychologists who claim that psychic phenomena are impossible because they break the laws of physics, and therefore the experimental data is irrelevant because it must be flawed in some way. This attitude of dismissing evidence out of hand on the basis of physics also applies to ufology. Hundreds of books have been written on the subject of UFOs and extraterrestrials, many involving meticulous scientific research. A big part of the evidence has been the unnerving pursuit of secrecy. Many UFO witnesses have been threatened, and some have even been harmed. If there's nothing to hide, then why try to hide it? In my opinion, the best way to get a sense of the mountain of credible UFO evidence is to watch on YouTube the citizen hearing on disclosure conducted in 2013. It involves 30 hours of testimony by 40 witnesses from 10 countries, many of them former military personnel. For example, in the most famous case on British soil, former Air Force Sergeants Jim Penniston and John Burroughs testified that in 1980 they had been sent into Rendlesham Forest to investigate a suspected aircraft crash that had been picked up on radar. What they actually found was a strange triangular craft hovering a few feet above the ground. It was completely silent.
When I touched the craft, it felt like metal, smooth metal.
Having touched the craft, Jim Penniston knew it was a solid object. What happened next is beyond the known laws of physics.
Burroughs and I then took a defensive position away from the craft as it lifted off the ground without any noise or air disturbance. It maneuvered through the trees and shot off at an unbelievable rate of speed. It was gone in a blink of an eye. That night, over 80 Air Force personnel, all trained observers assigned to the 81st Security Police Squadron, witnessed the takeoff. The information acquired during that investigation was reported through my military channels. The team and witnesses were told to treat the investigation as top secret, and no further discussion would be allowed.
It's that phrase, without any noise or air disturbance, that cuts to the heart of the physics issue. We know that normal objects displace the air as they fly through it, but if a metal object doesn't disturb the air, then that seems utterly impossible. However, that does seem to be what's happening, because one of the hallmark features of UFO encounters is the eerie, high-speed silence. When the metal craft in Rendlesham Forest disappeared in the blink of an eye, its interaction with air should have produced a thunderous sonic boom.
Jesus!
And a trail of heated particles called a plasma trail. This type of instantaneous acceleration from 0 to thousands of kilometers per hour in the blink of an eye is another common feature in UFO sightings. This also seems physically impossible. Plus, the G-forces involved would be crushing to any biology or technology on board the craft. This is just 3 examples of behavior that is way beyond our current understanding of science and technology, which is why so many ufologists believe that it must be extraterrestrial, or built by humans from extraterrestrial knowledge. It's also easy to see why many physicists might say this behavior is impossible for any civilization, according to the laws of physics. The most common argument against the extraterrestrial hypothesis is that the distance between stars is far too great to allow for interstellar travel. Now, if we look at the big picture, we have 3 types of phenomena, all of which have been labeled as pseudoscience by the majority of scientists, since they fly in the face of accepted mainstream science. But is mainstream science on a solid foundation? It may seem like it is, but the answer is no. Let's take a look at physics's shaky foundation, which can be summed up as follows. Everything in the known universe is made of particles in a framework of space and time, or space-time. However, particles are not understood, space-time is not understood, and the theory of particles is incompatible with the theory of space-time. This crisis of understanding is demonstrated by the fact that particles are thought to be non-real, as discussed in episode 11, and space-time is thought to be non-real or emergent, as discussed in episode 5. The problem that the theory of particles is incompatible with the theory of space-time is known as the quantum gravity problem, which was discussed in episode 7. It's not the only problem, there are plenty more, but it is regarded as the biggest unsolved problem in physics, and it's been unsolved for roughly a century. This means that there has been no working model of the universe over the past century. And throughout that time, physicists have been ardently searching for a new model of the universe, a model that can successfully combine particles and space-time in a single theory. This was the motivation for the famous string theory, which has recently fallen out of favor. In the meantime, another theory has been gaining ground, holographic universe theory. Though it may sound far-fetched, the holographic universe is widely revered as one of the most important breakthroughs of the past few decades. The theory still grips physicists 25 years since it was first published. It completely revolutionizes physics. It's not just a new model of the universe, it's a new category of universe, involving some type of projection that has yet to be established. This projection is coming from within the universe. However, it's very difficult to depict, so I will continue to show it as coming from below, as an indication that it's coming from a deeper level that we haven't yet fathomed. The holographic model has much potential. It not only solves the biggest problem in physics, it also explains some of the really big mysteries, like why do particles and space-time seem to be non-real, and why are they not understood? The answer is because they are a type of projection that emerges from a deeper level in which there is no space or time, and everything is entangled with everything else. I will describe that in more detail in an upcoming video. The discovery of this deeper level means that the current fundamental laws of physics are superseded by new fundamental laws. And since the deeper level is everywhere within the universe, everything has a deeper level and new fundamental laws. Laws which describe a spaceless, timeless, entangled, deeper level. This includes all of us. So does this mean we can do spaceless, timeless, entangled stuff? Yes, if we can access our deeper level. And here is the evidence that we can. This evidence would be extremely valuable to physicists who are struggling to establish whether the universe is indeed holographic. This is where all three of these mountains can play a vital role, because they all include spaceless, timeless, or entangled behavior. Even though they are not currently regarded as valid scientific evidence, there are various ways in which physicists can turn them into valuable empirical evidence, as I will discuss in the videos ahead. So, in summary, mainstream science has never been in a position to dismiss parapsychology and ufology as pseudoscience, because for roughly 100 years, physics has been on a shaky foundation and in search of a new fundamental theory. But their position on pseudoscience is understandable, since the current fundamental laws of physics are highly successful and seem good enough to describe everything on planet Earth. However, the recent emergence of holographic universe theory is a shocking surprise that completely changes the game when it comes to these mountains of evidence. And I hope you will join me in the next video to find out more.